Hey everybody, so today's presentation is going to be super short. I'm going to ask you to please forgive my graphics because they're not so hot. I really need to revamp this presentation. Today, okay baby, you can say hi. Hi. Hi, Anna says hi. Today we're going to focus on the end of World War I and what exactly the Treaty of Versailles did. The shorter version of this will be available via, wait for it, TikTok. I'll be posting it to my daily. I just want to say the video is 1 minute long, and yet it took me like 40 minutes to make yesterday. So you all are going to have to give me your tips and secrets. All right, so looking down, and I'm going to go ahead and disappear from the corner here, and I'll be talking, like I said, hopefully under 10 minutes here. No, don't touch that. Okay, go play. Oh, come here, you can sit on my lap. Waiting for this presentation to pull up. What, baby? Okay, so here we have the major players at the conference. They sometimes refer to them as the Big Four: Italy, Britain, France, and the United States. But honestly, the focus is going to be largely on Britain, France, and the United States. They're the ones who are going to be the decision makers. We've got Woodrow Wilson on the far right. That is Clemenceau in the middle with the really nice dash, and then Lloyd George from Britain there under or above the British flag, rather. Woodrow Wilson approached this treaty as an opportunity to plan for peace. Okay, specifically, he came up with a suggestion that was entitled 14 Points, or the 14 Points, and he called it his plan for peace. He said in 1919, "I can predict with absolute certainty that within another generation there will be another world war if the nations of the world do not concert the method by which to prevent it." So I have a lot of issues with Woodrow Wilson, but he is definitively right on this point, and his plan and his approach to the end of World War I is so much better than the other approaches. And it's important to understand context here. Everyone wanted different things for Germany. Hold on one second. Everyone wanted to approach Germany differently because they'd experienced different things. The United States, by and large, had escaped the majority of destruction, number one, because there was an ocean between them and the war. Number two, because they got involved at the very end. Meanwhile, France had been pretty much destroyed economically and physically in terms of geography. And Great Britain had certainly quite a bit of damage done, but it also was separated as it's an island entity here. All right, so features of the Treaty of Versailles. Very limited German military. They had to pay for the entire war. That was over 130 billion gold marks. It was an unbelievable amount. It was also a unfair amount. As you guys know, the war started with the assassination of an Archduke of Austria-Hungary by a Serbian, and yet Germany is literally paying for the entirety of the war. It will absolutely cripple their economy. The United States and the entire world go through a depression in the 1930s, but Germany's is very nearly the worst, and largely because of these reparations that they have to pay. Again, Germany had to accept all of the blame, okay? They had to take credit for the entire war. And again, we know this isn't accurate either, but they were one of the first countries to mobilize. Hold on, I have someone crying. Oh, goodness, I tell you. Wilson's 14 points. So Wilson did not want any of these things. He was afraid that if Germany was punished too harshly, they would become vengeful. Spoiler alert. And so in Wilson's 14 points, he calls for a number of things, including the creation of a League of Nations. Okay. The League of Nations is basically the predecessor to what we currently have, which is the United Nations. It is a group of countries that are supposed to work together to solve international problems and generally prevent war. It's a pretty good idea on its face. However, the difference between the League of Nations and the United Nations, which we have now, is number one, the League of Nations had no real power to punish countries if they didn't listen. Today, a lot of times, the United Nations use what's called sanctions, which target a country typically economically or through trade. And the second thing that really hampered the League of Nations is despite the fact that it was Wilson's idea and something that he had created as an idea to prevent world wars, the United States Congress did not want to join. They were basically hacked off that they got involved in a European war to begin with. It was costly in terms of men and money. And they had no interest in being embattled into other foreign conflicts. And so, despite the fact that Wilson creates this brainchild, the United States does not join. And you can see that from this cartoon right here. And this is a cartoon that was published in the United States explaining why the U.S. did not want the League of Nations. So as you see here, you've got England, foreign nations, European nations, Empire of Japan, and Uncle Sam has his hands tied behind his back. The people, and specifically Congress, were concerned that if the United States was part of the League of Nations, they would not be able to act independently or individually. Critics of the treaty believe that the League would drag the U.S. into future European wars. I already mentioned that, but that's specifically attributed to Senator Henry Cabot Lodge. Americans were war weary and wanted to return to isolationism. This does not go well. And then Wilson suffered a stroke, and he was unable to sell the treaty to the people. So it really hampered his health and his ability to go around and basically talk to people. A lot of times I think we think that major programs like the League of Nations or during Roosevelt's era, the New Deal, just came into existence. But they do have to be sold to the people. People have to understand these new laws and programs in order to put their support behind them and in order for senators and representatives to support it as well. And so by refusing to join the League of Nations, it made the League a paper tiger or weak on the world stage. All right, so as a quick rundown, causes of World War I, nationalistic pride, competition for colonies, that's your imperialism, militarism, that military buildup, that tangled web of alliances, and then, of course, the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. The overall effects, like literal destruction in Europe, okay? And again, not just economically, but geography-wise in terms of men. It actually created a boom in the American economy. Remember, we got involved at the very end of it, and therefore we did not suffer financially like the rest of the countries did. Suppression of dissent in the United States. So I'm going to talk a lot about that tomorrow. Tomorrow my focus is going to be 100% on what it was like here at home during the war, the home front. An Allied victory, of course. The defeated empires lose their colonies, so less of an end to colonialism or imperialism, more of a shift, okay? And then the U.S. emerges from the war as a world leader and an economic giant. And this is the map at the end. All right, so that is where I'm going to stop today. Again, not a super long presentation. Tomorrow, I'm going to be focusing 100% on the United States during war, and I will keep it under 15 minutes, I promise. Hope you all are doing well. I am posting the short answer open note task for World War I today, so if you want to get a jump, it's not looking like we'll be at school tomorrow if we get the snow that they're predicting, but regardless, if we are in school, then you'll hear all this in person. So take care, stay warm, much love.